are you doing? We are the Dynasty Buffs. It's our first video ever. First stream, first podcast. Super excited to be on today. After a long year of just getting things going and starting off, it was really awesome for us. So today, I'm joined with my new partner here, Max.
Hello, everybody. Hope you're having a great time. Glad to be here and kick this thing off. Can't wait for the season to start.
Yeah, same. All right, let's get it. As you guys know, I'm H. From Twitter, you can find me on Twitter at Dynasty Buffs. And we got Max here. You can find Max on Twitter at FF Buffs. All right, so today we're going to be talking about the Combine, everything that's been going on in the Combine, some of the players that we'd like, some of the players that have the potential to rise, and some of them have the potential to fall. So we're going to give you a little bit of snapshot on what's been happening at the Combine and go over quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. Then we're going to do a little bit of pick or player. We're going to be going through picks 1 through 104 or 101 to 104. And we're going to give you our thoughts analysis on each one. We'll be going over 12-team Superflex, tight end premium, regular 12-team Superflex, and one quarterback. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. And let's get started. All right, so this week, we're at Combine week right now. Yesterday, we just saw the defensive linemen, and we just saw the linebackers do their 40 times, get tested out, measured. All right, so Max, who do you think, in your opinion, yesterday, who is your favorite guy to watch yesterday, the defensive linemen and linebackers?
Yeah, well, obviously, the big thing that stands out from yesterday is the increased 40 times. I know some guys are talking about, they're inflated or whatever, but the fact is the linemen are still running a lot faster than they have in previous years. So as a group, I think they all stood out because they're all tremendous athletes. Kind of an amazing stat the way that works. But obviously the one that was the most impressive was the one who ran the official time of the 4.39 from Georgia.
Yeah, man, Nolan Smith. What an athlete.
He wasn't as big as some of the guys. I mean, you had some guys that were like 280, 290 pounds running a 4.8, 4.7. He's a little bit smaller, roughly 235, 240, almost the size of a big running back like King Henry. Yeah. But he's also more of a linebacker size, but still 4.39. I mean, you saw the memes coming out on Twitter. He could be a shutdown corner with that speed.
At corner, we've seen him at wideout. He could play. Yeah, he could do everything, especially with that speed. That size, the length too. His vertical was a 42-inch vertical, a 10.5 broad. It's insane athletes. You watch these big guys now, and you saw Devin White the other day say on talking to Daniel Jeremiah and some of the other guys saying, yeah, the running backs and the wide receivers, they're getting more and more athletic. But you watch these guys, these defensive linemen, the linebackers, you go, man, those wide receivers, those running backs now, they got to be athletes. They got to be freak athletes.
Well, the vertical, you mentioned the vertical. A lot of people, why is it vertical? It's not just explosiveness, but the fact that they can jump up. If you're, say you got a linebacker that can jump that high and the quarterback's trying to throw it in between in the zone, those guys can jump up.
Yeah.
And cause a lot of problems. You're going to have a quarterback and throw a curveball.
Yeah. Some other crazy stuff that's been going on, right? So the other day, Bryce Young, he went to the Combine after all. He's there. He's doing meetings. He's doing interviews. From what I've been reading, is that he's standing out very well in meetings, and coaches are asking him to break down film, and he's breaking down film and cutting up coverages that he hasn't seen before, and he's been just dissecting them into the ground. Though everybody's been wowed by him through his mentals, but I always ask that question of the size. What do you think he comes in at if you were to guess?
He's probably on the smaller side. The 5'10", probably 190, 195. He's probably been trying to beef up a little bit, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say 195. But he's probably 5'10", 195 at most.
Yeah, we'll see come Saturday if he does a weigh in or not. We'll see if he stays. Hope he does. I think he'll probably come in at 5'9" and 3/4 and 190. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on the weight, but even then, for me, it's a little concerning.
Well, I'd say this though, after watching all the defensive players play, or not play, but at the combine yesterday, all the big guys running fast. The comments are those guys are the ones that are gonna be hitting Bryce Young in the NFL, if not more. I said, well, he kind of played against a lot of them already. Certainly, if you look at all the ones from Georgia, he obviously played against Georgia, not just last year, but the year before.
Yeah. Yeah, there are some videos that we saw of Nolan Smith actually rushing after Bryce Young, and Nolan Smith himself said, Bryce Young, he's more athletic and faster than people probably think. He's a quick guy, and if a guy runs a 4.39, it's saying he's quick, and that these quarterbacks are pretty fast and the running backs are fast, and they've all played against each other. I think it's a good indication that these skilled players that are coming in, and we'll see him test out this week. I think they'll also test out pretty well. All right, some other things that we can think about to set us up for, our rookie drafts. What's going on with the quarterback situation, right? We have Daniel Jones now. He's supposed to maybe get a nice contract from the Giants. Looks like the Giants are going to franchise tag Barkley. I've seen Derek Carr. He's doing interviews there right now at the Combine as well with Indy, Carolina, New Orleans. And I think the Jets have also showed some interest as well. Lamar right now, he's still seeking a new contract with the Ravens. He's playing hardball with the Ravens, and I think he rightfully should. Some more information about some of the running backs that have come out for cutoffs. So Fournette is supposed to get cut in the coming weeks. Zeke might get cut, and Tony Pollard is supposed to get the franchise tag with the Cowboys. And we've seen some of the running backs have opted out of doing testing this week, and we'll have to wait for the pro days. Those include, Zach Evans, Dwayne McBride, and should be one more, I believe. Kendre Miller is the other third one. So Kendre Miller for sure. I know that he's nursing that MCL. Evans and McBride, I'm not sure why they're not testing. They said it's apparently an injury, but I haven't really seen any injuries from them throughout the year, and not that many designations on injuries. All right, so let's get into some of the players that we're excited to see this week at the Combine. Right, some of the skills players actually could be anybody you want. So I'll let Max take the floor on this one, and he can give you his guys.
Yeah, this is kind of an interesting thing. The quarterbacks of the Combine. Do you really care if your quarterback is this tremendous athlete if he runs a 4.3 and he jumps 40 inches high? That'd be nice if he's a running quarterback. But you had quarterbacks like Peyton Manning. I mean, even in the commercials, you see those where they're making fun of his lack of athletic ability, but he's probably one of the best quarterbacks to play the game.
Yeah.
Even Tom Brady is not tearing it up at 4.3 and jumping 40 inches high.
Yeah,
definitely. But that being said, I just picked a simple look at the ones that I want to see. I don't have quite the list. Everybody's CJ Stroud and all that. Some of the measurables you do want to see, the height and weight. But Anthony Richardson, I think he's one that you kind of definitely want to see because the tension between picking him early, and they always talk about his upside. Sure, he's a great athletic individual, certain a lot of capability, a lot of pros that you want to see in the quarterback. But the big questions are you going to be able to realize that? If they draft him, can they teach him to throw more accurately and with a little bit more different speeds so that he can drop it in the zone coverage or wherever he needs to? Footwork is what they suspect is the big issue, his footwork and his setup. So if he can learn that in the last several months that he's been out working on it, it'll show up here in the Combine when he starts throwing. So I want to see how he does on the accuracy and if his footwork actually gets better and improves. And you'll see the reports when it comes out. Another guy is Jake Haener. A little bit on the smaller end, 6 feet, listed anyway. Be interested to see how he does. He had a good Senior Bowl. Seems like he's got a pretty good ability to play the game. Interesting to see how he does there. And then Hendo Hooker is another one. I think a lot of people have kind of gone to sleep on him. Haven't heard much from him since his injury, but he certainly has a lot of capability. A little bit older, but certainly like to see what he can do in the combine.
Yeah, I like all three of those guys that you listed at quarterback. Richardson, I'm the most interested to watch, and I really want to see his measurables. So we look at, I want to look at his 40 time. I want to look at his, if he does a 3-cone, I want to see his 3-cone. I want to see his vertical, his broad jump. I know it's not, since we play fantasy, you always want to chase the dual threat quarterback. I think Anthony Richardson's the most dual threat, highest ceiling quarterback in this draft. I don't think he's the best quarterback. Best quarterback, in my opinion, is Young. But Richardson has the skills, the archetype, big body guy with a big arm, mobile. And if you watch him on film, he wants to play the pocket as much as he can. He wants to be a pocket passer. But the wheels that he has, the strength, the skills, like people say, Levis can be the next Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts. But I think Richardson can. I know his accuracy is a concern, but if you actually watch him, he looks awesome. He goes through his reads, he reads the defenses, he takes his times and makes his throws. I'm very interested to see him. He could potentially, in my opinion, be a top 1 or 2 pick in rookie draft if he gets, early first round draft capital. All right, next one is CJ Stroud. I want to look at Stroud and see if he can have the potential to be a dual threat versus just being a pocket passer. Because, those rushing yards in fantasy, it's just a cheat code. He can be a pocket passer or a Konami code, dual threat type quarterback. Hayner, you mentioned, I really like too. He's out of Fresno State. He won the Senior Bowl MVP. I think he's a nice sleeper. It could be a serviceable quarterback in the NFL. He kind of reminds me of a Jimmy G type quarterback that can fill it in, or like a Jacoby Brissett. They'll still be within. You can start them, but their ceilings aren't going to be that high. But they have a nice, easy floor that you can use and rely on.
Could be the next Brock Purdy.
Maybe. I don't know if he has the situation of Purdy or the coaching staff yet. I don't know, but could be. Yeah. You mentioned Hendon Hooker or Hendo Hooker on his nickname. I actually like him. He's my QB4 in this draft. I think he'd be a nice second round player. I know he's on the older end, but I'm interested to see those measurables. If he throws, that's awesome because he's coming back from an ACL tear. Will Levis. Levis is another dual threat quarterback in this draft. I want to see how he does with size, throwing, his 40 time. These are kind of some guys that I personally like, but I don't see them maybe even getting drafted. Maybe if they do, be 7th round or 6th or 7th round. So it'd be Jaron Hall out of BYU and Stetson Bennett from Georgia. Jaron Hall is a rushing quarterback. He reminds me so much of like Malik Willis or Desmond Ridder. So they could go out there and give you 20, or they could go out there and give you 4 points. I don't know. And then we got Bennett. Everybody knows who Stetson Bennett is. 2-time national championship winner in college. Older guy. You've seen all the memes, right? And, he's had off the field issues, but he was invited to the Senior Bowl, but didn't go. Interested to see what he does. Out of the quarterbacks, those are the guys I want to see. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the running backs. Again, turn it back over to you.
All right, thanks, H. Running backs. I got mine asterisks, as you can see in the list. I have all running backs. My theory on the running backs is that they can be great in college, but to be capable in the NFL, they got to have a certain threshold for speed. It used to be 4.6 for me in the 40 for the most part. You'd be hard pressed to find somebody that runs less than a 4.6 be successful in the NFL as a running back. You saw yesterday where the defensive lineman averaged a 4.83. That was the average for all the linemen that were running yesterday. So if you're not running faster, and I think the speed's actually getting faster, the cutoff is probably getting faster. I think it might be, I haven't done the math or the science on that, but probably a 4.55 is my guess. But certainly a 4.6 I still think is valid. So I want to see all the running backs. I like them, but until they run, I'm not going to like them as much until they get below the threshold. You'll have some with elite speed. They say Devin A-Chain from Texas A&M is supposed to run really fast. A little bit smaller, but that whole balance between size and speed is very important. So I want to see all the running backs run. I want to see that one because then that kind of helps me figure out where I'm going to place them. I put an asterisk by Charbonnet from UCLA and Sean Tucker. I like Sean Tucker, and I like Charbonnet. He's probably one of the bigger backs that are available. Certainly has good, seemingly like good speed, but until you see him run and get to clock him to make sure that it matches up, I'd still hold off on him because you had who was it from Michigan last year? I think Kyron Williams. He ran horribly in the 40. He still got picked up, plays with the Rams. I actually have him on one of my teams, but he hasn't really torn it up in the NFL.
Yeah, so you can always look at him and then look at Pacheco, right? They're opposites, but they're kind of the similar. Pacheco is more athletic, right? And Kyron Williams is more productive.
Yeah, it's you could be productive in college. It just doesn't necessarily translate all the time into the NFL. And I think one of the big discriminators in running backs is speed. That just is the way it is. You have straight line speed and you have agility, so they're different. That's why I like Tucker. Tucker, it just seems he may not have the full top end speed that a lot of people say. At least that's some of the reports you see. You watch him on tape. He has a great burst when he runs through the line. He hits the hole and he runs well. And he has a little bit of a dip. They say he's not very elusive. He's not going to outdance you, but he can be elusive when he's running through the middle. I like him. He's my sleeper guy for the year. But you got Jahmyr Gibbs and Devin A-Chain. Those guys, you just have to verify what they're going to do. Tyjae Spears rocketed up. He's a guy that everybody's looking at. Again, speed. He may have done great at Tulane, but if he doesn't run fast, probably not going to put him very high. That's just me. Those are my biases. I also have asterisk by Tank Bigsby and Roschon Johnson. I still like big backs. A lot of guys like big receivers. I like big backs too. You see how fast and how big everybody is. Having a running back who's big and fast, there you go. That's like the cheat code. Bijan Robinson, everybody knows him. I won't talk about him. But Roschon Johnson was his backup. He's another big back. And if he runs fast, I think he's a sleeper. And then Israel A. from Pitt. He's the guy that you want to see him run too. If he's as fast as everybody says, he could be a Pacheco in hiding.
Yeah, I like all those people. You mentioned all the running backs there. Yeah, definitely with the running backs, combine matters. We don't really even know what they come in at as height, weight. You got to figure the BMI. We don't know. As you guys have probably seen, I've done some write-ups on all these guys. And I love them all, and I also have look at stuff, and I go, I don't know about that. I have my questions on pretty much every single one. Even Bijan, I still have questions. I hope he runs below a 4.4, sub 4.4 something. I'm hoping. I think Bijan runs like a 4.45, 4.46. Some people think he runs a 4.55. I'm like, ugh. I'm not a fan of that. Charbonnet, Tucker, A-Chain, Gibbs, Spears. There's always something, right? There's always something I'm always looking for. Charbonnet, I want to see the speed. People say he's not athletic. I think he will be. Tucker, same thing, speed and size. Those are my concerns. A-Chain, biggest thing he needs to get in his size. He needs to get a nice weigh-in. If he doesn't weigh in at 200, I don't think he's going to be a running back you can start week in, week out. He'll just be another flex option. Gibbs, another size thing. Spears, for me, he could be a little heavier, but he also needs to work on his. I want to see the physical attributes, the speed. Also, I want to see some of these guys' gauntlets. I know gauntlet is like us dumb. All you do is catch a ball and you drop it. But it is nice to just see them catch balls that maybe they don't. There's some guys that have 0 receptions or 1 or 2 receptions in their career in this group, and it'd be nice to see him. There's another couple guys only have 5, 10. You're just like, wow, it's not that many. And we saw last year with Kenneth Walker. If you watched him during the gauntlets, he had nice hands. Majority of the stuff these guys want to look for is blocking. But there's no tests at the combine that do that. But again, you can refer to my write-ups on Twitter. You can look at all my ratings and my blocking grids. All right, let's move on to the wide receivers. Some of the receivers that you want to see at the combine, see how they test out. Let me know what you think.
Yeah, thank you, H. Receivers, again, I got an asterisk all wide receivers. You kind of want to see them too because they have a threshold for speed as well. If you're slow, you're not going to get open. The amount of talent you have in the NFL, they're big, they're fast, they're strong, and obviously they can cover, which is why they're in the NFL. That being said, you want to kind of get a feel for where they are because speed does matter. Some of the ones that you have, other than the obvious, we know JSN and QJ. I guess JSN's not even running. If I'm not mistaken. They got reports that he's maybe slower than what they think.
Yeah, it's weird because he said he's not going to run the 40, but he's going to partake in other activities. I feel like you just shouldn't do it at all. Like, you shouldn't do anything, but anyway.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I mean, you hear the arguments, people say, oh, look at the tape, he got wide open. Some of those were busted coverages on the ones where some of the highlights, but certainly he does get open. He has good hands. He's certainly played well in college. But again, it comes down to the distinction. Just because he did it in college against college-level talent, will it necessarily translate to the NFL? That we don't know, but that's why I think the 40 times are important. Some of the guys that I have listed, Jordan Addison, certainly you want to see how he does. Maybe a slot receiver. Certainly successful, had a good year. Last year was a little bit tougher for him, but still he went to different programs. Certainly can learn the new offense and play with the new team, so he's certainly adaptable. But that would help him a good run time. Guys like Boutte from LSU, he's a guy that has certainly some good size to him and athletic ability. Speed would help him as well. Guys I have there like Rashee Rice and Cedric Tillman. Those are two big receivers, relatively big receivers, that I know they say Rashee Rice is supposed to be really fast. They say he can tear the top off, but I watched them on film and I'm like, maybe, but I'd like to see the 40 time to make sure that they're actually fast enough for the NFL. Not sure they are. They could probably do okay, but to kind of see if they're going to be the ones you want to draft in the first couple rounds is a different story. I got asterisks by Tyler Scott from Cincinnati and Michael Wilson from Stanford. Tyler Scott's fast. Looks like a slot guy. You want to kind of see where he is, kind of see how his hands are at the combine, but he might surprise folks as well just because of the sheer speed. Michael Wilson might surprise guys. Big receiver, good hands, good discipline. He had a good Senior Bowl. He might be able to do something too as a sleeper. Those are kind of my sleeper guys. Xavier Hutchinson, he's another guy that you got to watch. Copeland, a guy from Maryland, transfers from Florida. We'll see what it is on him. The ones I really like to watch are just good athletes. Or this guy, Andre I from Princeton. Obviously, Princeton, I know, is probably not the powerhouse school, and then Dontavian Wicks from University of Virginia. Those are two good athletes, two big receivers. Didn't necessarily come from powerhouse programs, didn't have the numbers, huge production, but certainly had the physical tools. Just a question. Andre I'm not going to even attempt his last name, but his size, he's like 6'3", maybe 215 is what they list him at. Supposedly runs between a 4.2, 4.3. So he'll be interesting to see how he is. I think his speed will be enough for people to pick him up as a project.
Yeah, so I got to ask a question. What are your thoughts on Quentin Johnston out of TCU?
I like him. I think he's got certainly the physical talents that you have. A little mini Metcalf, right? I wouldn't even say mini because they're probably about the same size. But if he's fast, certainly has that capability. Metcalf, I think when he came into the league, he had to work on his route running that they talk about. But I think he certainly has all the attributes to do it. You watch some of the tape, his situation is a little bit tougher. I'm not a big fan of Duggan. I know Jerry Jones was, but I just did see what they're seeing when I watch Duggan play, and I think you could see him take some plays off when you watch the tape. But when he's on, and he's one of those guys you just wonder if he's going to kick it on. But certainly worth the risk at his size and physical traits.
Yeah. I like all of the guys that you listed, and I have some of them on there too. Like I have Downs. You also have Downs. The only one you didn't have on is JSN, Quentin Johnston, and Marvin Mims. So I'll just talk about those guys real quickly here. So JSN, he's not running the 40, but he might partake into other activities. Being maybe he does his broad jump, maybe he does his vertical. Maybe if you have good numbers there, that can maybe help us out a little bit better, figure out what he does. But I've seen a lot of comps on him that is Jarvis Landry. Landry ran like a 4.7, like one of the worst combines you could probably see out of a wide receiver. Amazing he still got picked up, but I'd be curious what the NFL thinks of JSN. I'll probably have to lean more on them this year than I'd probably like to. Quentin Johnston, man, the dude's a freak athlete. I think he's going to test out really well. I think he's going to run maybe a 4.39 to a 4.42 40 time. I want to see his gauntlet. I want to see if he can actually catch the ball with his hands or if he's going to body catch every single one. Or maybe he just doesn't do it. If he doesn't do a gauntlet, that's probably not anything good. I'll mention Marvin Mims. I think Marvin Mims will surprise a lot of people in all of the community, Dynasty community, and some of the scouts. I think he's going to test out as a really nice athlete. I know he's smaller, but the production is there, and I would put some money on that he'll have a decent to good combine and a nice test. That's kind of it in the receivers. All right, we can go ahead and move on to the tight ends.
All right, for the tight ends, as you can see, I don't put the guys that everybody's listing. I mean, everybody's watching them, so I don't bother putting them down because I assume everybody's watching them as well. My top guy is going to be Luke Musgrave. I think he's going currently number 4 right now in terms of ranking for tight ends, but I think he might be the best athlete out of the top ones as far as blocking, catching. Maybe more of a receiver type tight end, but he certainly has the one you want to watch because he certainly has the potential to be blazing fast for a fairly big guy as a tight end. The other guy, Sam Laporta, Luke Schoonmaker from Michigan, guys like that you want to see see what they run and see how they do it at the combine as well.
Mm-hmm.
I had an asterisk there by Zach Kuntz. I put him on there last night to take a look at the combine as well. He might be a sleeper guy to look at later on.
Yeah, I see that you got Schoonmaker on there too.
Yeah,
so he's out of Michigan.
He's a big guy. He's 6'6". He'll be more like a Schultz guy. He's not going to be a tear it up like Pitts, and you're going to see him in the top 3. He's just going to be potentially a good sleeper for a great, just a great serviceable tight end. Week in, week out, you start him in and you leave him in there until he has his bye week.
Yeah, the irony is Luke Schoonmaker. You mentioned he's like Schultz, so the Cowboys are probably going to let Schultz walk. And they actually like Schoonmaker. So I feel like it could be a 1-for-1 replacement maybe. I'm not sure Schoonmaker's as athletic as Schultz. But I like that guy. I like Schoonmaker. I think he's a good person to have on your list to look out for. As, maybe that Daniel Ballinger like last year or,
He's a big guy, 6'5". He's actually 6'5". I said 6'6". We'll see what he is at the combine, but 250. He's got room to get bigger. They have him listed at a 4'8". The guy Zach Kuntz I was telling you about is from ODU, right? Old Dominion University. He's a big guy, 6'8". In terms of height, he's 6'8". He's only 251. I'm not sure what his size can get to in terms of weight, but they have him listed at a 4.57. So if he runs a 4.6, let's say, at 6'8", 251, pretty big guy. I mean, he doesn't have, didn't come from a powerhouse school or anything, but certainly he's one of the guys that they could work on potentially as a project, maybe good for you 2-3 years down the line.
Yeah, I'll talk about a little about mine. I also want to see Musgrave run. I know he didn't have that many opportunities this year in college due to injury, but a lot of Dynasty communities, a lot of people on Dynasty Twitter, Todd McShay on ESPN, Mel Kiper, they're like, oh, he's going to be a freak athlete. He's going to test out the charts. For me, I think Darnell Washington will be the guy that surprises people, that tests off the charts. And a lot of people base tight end based on athleticism, right? So we've seen guys like Pitts last year, or a couple years ago. We had McBride last year. We had Daniel Bellinger. We had Greg Dulcich. We had Jelani Woods. All elite athletes. I think Darnell Washington will be that elite athlete. I think he comes in at, maybe 260. I think he's supposed to run like a 4.6, maybe a 4.5. I don't know. I think he'll surprise a lot of people. Some people said he's also listed at 270. I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah, he's they got him. I'm looking at it right now. He's listed at 6'7", 270. Supposedly supposed to run a 4.6, 4.63, and he's a big guy. That's the thing with him. And they use him a lot as a blocker in Georgia. He's like the size of a tackle.
Yeah, the idea is like, what would LeBron James be like if he played tight end, right? That's the joke that's been going around, and people have been talking about Washington about. Mayer has been the textbook blue-collar tight end that every GM and scout wants on their team. He's very productive. He catches balls. He's a target hog in the end zone. He has good blocking. He's pretty shifty. He's got nice route running. I think he'd be a poor man's like Travis Kelce, but maybe if he tests out well and he does better than people expect, I think he could be moving up the boards even more than he is right now. He's going to late first right now in mocks. And rookie drafts and Dynasty, he's going at the late first, early second. I think he can move up even more if he tests out better because he has the production. Tucker Kraft, I don't think he had him on there.
No, I didn't put him on there.
So he's a guy out of South Dakota State. South Dakota State, they usually put out a lot of elite athletes. So here's another example of another elite athlete. Sam Laporta is probably my favorite tight end in this draft class. Not the best, but my favorite. He reminds me so much of Pat Freiermuth from he plays on the Steelers now, but out of Penn State at the time. He reminds me so much of Pat Freiermuth. He's a good blocker, not the craziest athlete, but he has good awareness of the defense, is nice in the slot, has good route running, can run nice cross routes, can run nice post routes, and occasionally from time to time, he can run some drags and some cutbacks. He's a nice tight end. He could be maybe another poor man's George Kittle when it comes to route running, with some Pat Freiermuth blocking and moving. So he's another one I like. Curious, I just want to see all of them test out, but those are the guys I'm keeping my eye on. All right, so a couple questions here. So who, in your opinion, needs to have the best possible combine to increase their stock from where it is right now?
Good question. To increase their stock, I think. Well, Richardson's been shooting up anyway as of late. If he wants to keep the trajectory going, if he throws accurately in the combine, he'll just keep going up even more. I think he can really help himself. As far as running backs, I think guys like Jahmyr Gibbs, if he comes in a little bit heavier than most people give him credit for, he might move up some as well. Tyjae Spears, he's been shooting up as well since the Senior Bowl. If he has good measurables and good speed, he can move up as well. The guys that I had asterisk before in terms of the running backs, Tank Bigsby, Roschon Johnson. Charbonnet's already listed pretty high, but Sean Tucker, Boutte for the receivers, I think he can move up a little bit more, get back into the discussion despite having a down year if he tests well in terms of speed. And then again, for the tight ends, if Luke Musgrave has a phenomenal combine, he'll be up there with Mayer, Walker, and then him. He might be able to supplant Kincaid, who's not running.
Yeah. As you mentioned, I got Richardson. He could catapult himself all the way to the 101 in the NFL draft. If he throws, runs, everything that he does at the combine just destroys. All of his interviews, he just dominates. I would not be surprised if he went number 1 off the board. You mentioned Tucker. Sean Tucker's been falling in a lot of people's mocks. I still like him. I think if he tests out way better than people expect, he can be the RB3, RB2 in this draft class. Kayshon Boutte, man, he needs to have a good combine. He had some of the worst production that we've seen coming from a guy that just dominates his sophomore year and then just like falls off his junior year. Either that be quarterback play, the offense that he's in, or something. But he just had a bad year.
I think it's all the above on some of those. It isn't just him. It's the quarterback play. Some of the games I saw, you can't blame him for some of those. Some things you can, but not those. The offense, certainly the team wasn't as good as it's been in the past years.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell. It's just like many of the other players, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, but we're talking as him being the wide receiver 2 in this class. Now he's fallen all the way down to, wide receiver 6 to 7? So he needs to have a good combine. I think out of everybody, I think I'd pick Boutte because everybody's so high on him. I haven't seen anybody else in this draft fall that much.
I agree. I think him and Roschon Johnson. If he runs fast, if he runs a 4.45,
do you think Roschon needs to have a good combine though? Like nobody is mocking Roschon early, like ever.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is that if he does run fast, I think he'll move up. It'll help him in the draft. If he runs a 4.4, are you going with him or Tank Bigsby or even Zach Evans?
It always comes down to what the other guys do too, right? I don't know.
Yeah, but if he runs, like I'm saying, he runs a 4.4, 4.45 as a big guy, who do you think is going to be the potential starter in the NFL? Again, a lot of it depends on draft capital and that as well. I understand that. But I think if he runs fast and has a good showing at the combine, he can really help himself because he was a backup. You know, he split carries with Bijan, and everybody's talking about Bijan, so he's kind of the forgotten sibling, if you will. But he's potentially, I think he could be a sleeper. That's why I seem to like him. Big running backs, big fast running backs are like the unicorns.
Well, I would say Bigsby is another one that needs to have the best possible combine so he can get back to his original draft stock.
Yeah, without a doubt.
I don't really see that with Roschon. I don't think I've ever seen Roschon mocked to the second. You know? So like Bigsby, some people in the Dynasty Twitter and Dynasty Devi are like, oh, Bigsby is better than Bijan Robinson. Bigsby's the most productive running back in college. And he just fell off a cliff this year in terms of production. So he went from being RB1, RB2 in this draft class to like RB6 to 7. Like he needs to have the best possible combine so he can get back into the RB2, RB1 conversation.
Well, yeah, I'm looking at one of the sites here. They have Bigsby as number 5 behind Charbonnet and A-Chain. And Roschon, he's not even in the. Let me see where he's at. He's number 16. So he's behind a lot of folks. He's almost a forgotten character. He's 6 foot 225. Supposed to run they say 4.39, but let's say he runs a 4.4. I guess he doesn't surprise anybody because that's what they're expecting. But at 220, 225, that's a pretty big guy.
Well, I'm curious where you had Roschon Johnson in mocks last year and earlier in the season, the offseason.
Me, I'm one of those guys that I'm talking about that doesn't really look at the backups. I figured if he wasn't good enough to start on his own team, then why would you look at him to be your guy with one of your draft picks? In this case, when you're with Bijan with Bijan as your lead, well, he's still got a pretty good number of picks. So I'm inclined to take a look at him because of his size. I mean, who else is 225-ish, over 6 foot, and runs a 4.3, 5.44? Derrick Henry, I mean, he's a big guy, runs fairly fast. He's a guy they don't like to tackle. How's Roschon? I'm not saying he's a Derrick Henry. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying when you find guys that are that big, that extra 15 pounds, and that type of speed, it's going to translate into a bunch of carries on Sunday potentially. That's me.
Well, I guess my other question would be, do you think Mayar needs to have an elite combine to justify his draft stock, his current going?
To maintain where he's projected, sure, he's got to be what they call athletic, right? An athletic tight end. Doesn't have to be a super elite athletic tight end, but he's got to be able to have a decent showing to show that he can also be a good receiver as opposed to just a blocker.
So if he has a bad combine, do you think his draft stock tanks?
Yeah, I think it potentially could. I wouldn't say it tanks like totally, because if you look at the list, I don't think the tight ends are as deep as the ones we had last year. But where he's at, he's expected to run. They're expecting him to run somewhere around a 4.65. So if he runs a 4.9, yeah, he's going to slide. If he doesn't run around a 4.6, 4.7, that's where he is. He needs to maintain. But if he drops a 4.9, he's going to slide. 4.8, you'd think after running for the 4.8, I mean, look what you're saying. If he runs a 4.8, he's running as fast as the defensive lineman. That's the reality of what we're looking at. So I would say all the guys, not just him, they have to run kind of what they're expected to stay where they are. If they run slower, certainly significantly slower than that for a combine, that's going to hurt them a little bit. I don't care who it is. Quarterback accepted.
Yeah, so I guess we can transition into, potential fallers, right? Guys that have already fallen and have lost some of the draft stock, right? So kind of like a little trend up or down, right? So who's going up and who's going down? Who's going up and who's going down after combine? So right now, our followers are going to be, in my opinion, are Bryce Young, Dwayne McBride, Zach Evans, and Kendre Miller. Kendre Miller, Evans, and McBride, they're not testing. They're not there due to injuries. We don't know. So by you not going to the combine, for me, that signifies that you're slow and you're kind of hiding something. So I've been the biggest Dwayne McBride fan, and I even made a joke saying, oh, everybody's talking about Nolan Smith and how athletic he is. And I'm like, okay, yeah, well, Dwayne McBride, some running back out of UAB, stopped on blocking every time. So if McBride is stuffing an elite athlete, you just go, man, he's the dude's going to be a brick wall. He's got to be a big dude. So I don't know why he's not testing due to injury. Anyway, he's going down. He went from potential, if he tested out well and he was at the combine, he could have been a round 2 draft pick in the NFL. Now he's probably like a fifth round pick. Evans, he's was regarded as an RB2 in this draft class, some ahead of Gibbs or right behind him. Now he's not even testing. Ooh, he went from being a second round pick to maybe probably a third round pick. He'll probably still end up going higher because of the pedigree that he has. Miller, man, I have been the biggest Kendrick Miller fan you can possibly imagine. As soon as I saw him play and take over this year at TCU, I was like, he's going to go high, and people are going to find out about him, and I'm not going to get enough Miller shares. Now he's nursing that MCL. He's not running, and he's not testing or anything. We'll have to wait for their pro days. I mentioned Bryce Young because originally he wasn't supposed to be at the combine. Now he is. But my issue with him is not the height. I don't care. We've seen guys like Breeze, Russell Wilson, and my favorite, everybody knows I'm a huge Kyler Murray fan. But all those guys are bigger in terms of weight. And like their BMIs are bigger. Young, I need him to come in at 5'9" and 195. Or if you come in at 5'10", 5'11", 6 foot, I'm gonna need you to be 200 to 205 pounds. You think Bryce Young is gonna be able to take hits from dudes like Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Micah Parsons, Nolan Smith, some of the other guys in this draft? You're just like, man, if he takes hits from those dudes, he's just done. I know people say that he's a wizard with the ball in his hands. He's just so fast and he moves around. He's like, oh, you can't touch me. I'm Steph Curry. I can do whatever I want. It just takes one. It takes one hit to mess him up and to just start snowballing, right? I know this year was a big thing with Tua and him being small. All right, I know he's bigger than Bryce Young, but the BMI, the size, you just take hits like that over and over and over. You keep getting injured, and you're never going to play. So the fact that Young was not going to be at the combine and do his weigh-in is a red flag for me. The only requirement for Young was to just hit 190, 195. He's listed at 6 foot 190. So how far off is that 190? Is it 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 15, 20? What is it? I mean, he's not above 190 because if he was, he would say, I don't even care. I'm going to do the interviews and I'll weigh in and then that's it. He's not doing that.
So is at least that 6 foot 190.
He's, again, I don't care about the height. Maybe he is. Maybe his agent said it's all about the height, but it's not. It's about your weight. All he had to do was sit in this dorm and just eat bars and bars of protein bars and just pound mass gainer. That's all he had to do, and just have the cafeteria food and just pizza. That's all he had to do.
But then he'd come in looking skinny fat, right? He'd come in real thin and then a big belly, like a python ate a pig or something. It would look funny. But I understand what you're saying, and I'm one of those guys that says, hey, if I was his agent, I'd say, hey, don't measure anything. It's better for people to think that you're small than for them to know you're small, because then they have something to act on. Otherwise, it's just speculation, because if you don't have that for sure, then the tape kind of rules the day. And he's great on tape. He actually has good decision-making, good analysis, actually a decent arm, and is pretty shifty in the pocket. The other argument would be that, well, look who he played with. He's not coming from a small school that nobody's seen on Sunday for the most part. He's at a big-name school, big powerhouse, and he's playing against all the guys that you see running well in the combine that are going to be with him in the first draft. He's been hit by them. I mean, even the Nolan Smith he drug him down and threw him in the dirt. He still got up, and he says he's fast. So it ain't the first time he chased him or caught him. Those are some of the things that you also have to take into consideration when people are looking. Are we going to get their upside? Right? Take Richardson, because I like Richardson. He's a big guy. They're betting on the fact that we can teach him the mechanics and that he'll be able to make good decisions and put the touch and the accuracy on the throw at the next level when the game's faster. That's not as much as the risk with Bryce Young, because they think he already has that. His problem is he going to get hurt? As a Dallas Cowboys fan, is he going to be broken like Romo was when they tackled him and broke his back, and then enter Prescott? And then Prescott's been injured, every other year as well. So what's the bigger risk for the NFL teams? I don't know. I would tend to roll with somebody who can throw the ball and play quarterback and hope he doesn't get hurt. And hopefully you get him big enough to withstand some of that punishment before he starts playing.
Yeah, I'll even ask you this easy question, right? It's a tricky one, but a fun one. Where did Tua Tagovailoa play in college?
Where? Tua?
Where'd he go to school?
The Royal Tide.
Yeah. So he's also playing against a similar competition. And then he goes to the NFL and then gets destroyed.
All right, he didn't have the judo lessons, though. If they put Bryce Young on judo lessons now, he ain't going to have a problem.
Yeah. So I get what you're saying. So it's easier to, I mean, we have all the data for guys to get big. We have the nutrition plans and the information to do that. That is a lot easier to do than it is to teach a guy how to play quarterback and be more accurate.
How to have it.
So all these guys, all these quarterbacks, none of them are perfect. They've always got they have something wrong with them. I think they're all a year project. They're not going to be, Trevor Lawrence coming in, or like Justin Fields, or those two guys. Herbert, Burrow. I guess Patrick Mahomes, even then he was still a project a little bit coming in his first year. But yeah, they're not Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow coming in and they're going to be top 10 quarterbacks. I don't see any of these guys being top 10 quarterbacks. Because with Young, it's going to take him a year to get to his actual playing weight he needs to be at so he can be healthy and stay healthy. Richardson, you're going to have to sit down and coach him and tell him how to go through all the stuff and fix his accuracy. Levis, he's got other stuff. He's got a combination of all of them that he needs to work on. And then Stroud, he also needs to work on his playing weight as well and see if he can figure out his mobility or become faster with his reads. That way he doesn't have to leave the pocket to make another play, or he doesn't have all the time in the world like he does in college, right? It's faster. He's going to go through his reads faster.
I think Stroud and Hooker probably be the closest plug-and-play guys for this year.
Yeah, I can see that. I agree with you on that one. And I like Hooker a lot. I think he can be this year's Kenny Pickett. He'll come in. He'll be serviceable. He'll give you points. He'll win you some games. But, his ceiling is not that high. Ceiling is not that high. And, he's also older, too, like Pickett. I think they're the same age now as the rookie years this year.
You also got the guy from Stanford. I can't think of his name right now.
McKee. I'm not a fan of Tanner McKee.
Yeah, he doesn't play bad. I mean, he's a guy that might, depending on the right situation, he might be able to translate into a serviceable starter. Hard to say. I mean, we'll see. He's another guy I'm keeping an eye on at the combine just for a late round if you need a quarterback stash. Quarterbacks are tough right now to get. A lot of them are injured. A lot of them look at Carson Wentz. His fall from grace is pretty fast, but anyway.
So, all right, one more question, then we'll move on. We'll do pick or player. Who, in your opinion, has had the fastest and who now currently has the highest rising stock? Whose stock is just who is going to keep going? Who has the potential to have the highest stock from from right now until NFL draft?
Richardson, without a doubt. I mean,
Okay.
he's just come up. I mean, you could say Tyjae Spears came up a lot from the Senior Bowl, but Richardson, just to me, the way he's gone up from, I was thinking, well, geez, he's a project. I didn't even think he was going to be a first round pick to where he is now. Some people are even saying he's going to be the first quarterback pick. In fact, I saw him talking about the combine. Oh, they did interviews. He's the smartest one in the room this year and last year as well. Then you're like, okay, does that mean you're still going to pick him number one? Is he your guy you're going to bet your franchise on? Apparently, a lot of teams are leaning that way. So it's hard to me, it baffles me that he would shoot up that far without the track record. I understand the physical traits, but at quarterback, I guess I'm old enough to remember Ryan Leaf and Peyton Manning. The tale of two cities, if you will. Not to take into account the Indianapolis Colts and the California team that got Ryan Leaf, and those two. The differences between the two are supposed to be surefire players. Ryan Leaf is supposed to be a sure thing. Richardson is still a speculative project that they hope they can get the most out of him and realize the upside. That's why I'm a little bit shocked that, again, teams are falling right. I think it's more out of desperation and need for a quarterback as opposed to saying this is how it's going to go. But yeah, I think he's probably the one that's going to move up the most between now and then, and he can. And in fairness to him and his ability, if he learns the proper footwork and the accuracy and shows that improvement at the combine, I think he'll shoot up even more.
Yeah, I like that pick. I mean, he's been, he was at the end of the first round, like a month or two ago. And now he's like, he's going to mid first to early first, and now like, the 101. Yeah, I like that pick as the top riser so far. I think I'm gonna lean a little bit away from the quarterbacks here. I'm gonna pick one of the tight ends. I think Dalton Kincaid has been the biggest riser that I've seen out of guys. I've seen he's my tight end one. I don't even care. I saw him play against USC, and he dominated against USC, so now he's my tight end one. I think people are going to throw out all types of physical traits and say, he's done this. And they're not even going to pay attention to the fact that he missed his combine this year. I think a lot of people are going to overlook everything that they need to just because they like him as a tight end. I think he has the potential to catapult all the way himself to tight end one. I don't know how, but I've seen a lot of people say he's my guy. And I don't care what these other guys do when they test out as, he's my guy. So if the other tight ends test out well off the charts, and I still hear Dalton Kincaid, tight end one, I think I don't know. I have no idea. But I'm going to pick Kincaid as my biggest riser. Even currently, there's some big name people on Dynasty Twitter and on YouTube that have put him as their tight end one.
Wow, yeah, I don't see that at all. I mean, I know he's good and he's a project. I just don't ever see him going up to number one. Certainly with Mayer and Washington. I mean, Darnell Washington, he will more than likely, I think, move up to be the number one tight end after the combine if Mayer can't hold him off with a decent performance. I think the size and the potential skill, again, the upside from Washington. Kincaid, he's 240? I mean, not 240, he's a big guy, but
we don't know. We're never going to know.
Yeah.
We're never going to know, but in that USC game.
That's what he's listed. Game. I don't know. I mean, Darnell Washington, you're looking at a guy who can block and go out for a pass, and he can block like a tackle. I just think that option to do both is their teams aren't going to pass that up.
Yeah.
Same thing with Mayer. He's not a small guy either. He's 265? Mm-hmm. Okay, he's 5 pounds lighter. I just think those two guys are. If you can get two guys that big that can catch, especially near the red zone, I don't think Kincaid. He's more of a receiver, kind of like Gesicki goes out, doesn't block as much with the Dolphins. But I think those other two will probably be in more demand. But could be, we'll see.
Yeah. All right, so we'll do a little bit of pick or player. So we'll go through the 101, 102, 103, 104. I'll be looking at current ADP and playing a game of who would you rather have, right? Would you rather have the pick or would you rather have the current player? So I'm going to go ahead here and put up my screen. So right here, shout out Adeiko. We're going to be looking at some of the players here and some of the ADP that's going on right now. So if we look at, current trades and ADP startup leagues and, 12-team Superflex, where are some of these picks going, right? So Bijan Robinson is pretty much the 101. It could be Bryce Young, but we'll just stick with the picks right now because they're not drafted technically. So right now you got Lamb, Deshaun Watson, Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson, Jamar Chase, Trevor Lawrence, and, Justin Jefferson. So within the range between Jonathan Taylor up to Justin Jefferson is what the 101 has been going for. So, Max, if I was to ask you, who would you rather have, Bijan Robinson or, Lamar Jackson?
Lamar Jackson. Well, I guess the format, I'm assuming a super flex, right? 2-quarterback super flex. Yeah, 2-quarterback super flex. Like everybody else, I'm sure, you have to put a premium on quarterbacks because you just don't have that. You want to have 2 starting quarterbacks. So out of the league, to get 2 elite quarterbacks, you're hard pressed to get that. Lamar Jackson's one of them. And even despite his contract situation, the worst case, if you pick him up, he might sit out if they try to franchise him. But that being said, you still got to go with Lamar Jackson just because you know that you're going to get him at least for another 5-6 years. Any running back you're probably only going to have for 3 to 4. Bijan might be special, kind of like Zeke had a good contract and a good run, even though he's near the end of his career. I think Bijan could be as good as that, but you still can't value that more than a good quarterback like Lamar Jackson in a 2-quarterback superflex.
Yeah, as we'll see with some of the trades that we've seen and I have here, we'll see some of that, We'll see some of the people value the current quarterback over the top running back RB1, right? So another one that I've seen is, who would you rather have, Bijan or, Justin Fields or Deshaun Watson, right? So Bijan, Justin Fields, or Bijan or Deshaun Watson. Assuming, super flex, 12-team, standard, PPR.
Yeah, those are a little bit tougher than Lamar Jackson, obviously, because Watson doesn't have the sustained performance as of late because of all the legal troubles that he had and the suspensions. And even when he came back last year, it's more of a transition year. I don't necessarily say that's going to be indicative of his expected play. I think based on what he's done before and his transition back, I tend to go again with the quarterbacks. Somebody like Deshaun Watson, who's proven that he's a top-level quarterback, I'd probably lean in that regard as well.
So how far down the list would you go, and how high up the list would you go here? So for me, I would probably take Bijan after Kyler Murray here in a startup because I value the quarterback so much. But if I was punting the year and I wanted to go get, Caleb Williams, I guess, I think I would probably take him as early as probably the 110.
So you would take him over Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, I would.
Dak Prescott?
Yep.
Okay.
I would even take him over Murray or Justin Fields. If I was, punting the year, I didn't care about quarterback. I wanted to get
Gotcha.
Caleb Williams next year and Drake May.
And if you're trying to win,
If I'm trying to win,
I'm down to Tua.
I would have him right after Kyler Murray.
So you'd still get him ahead of Watson.
After Watson. So it'd be like the 204.
Okay. I gotcha. I'm
right before Brees Hall.
Yep, I gotcha. Okay.
All right. So we can go ahead and move on to 102, right? 102 going in a Adeiko ADP is right between Waddle and Kenneth Walker. So assuming 12-team Superflex, same thing. Would you rather have Waddle or would you rather have Bryce Young?
A lot of, obviously depends on the situation and where he lands and how those things go. But assuming all that's good, would I rather have Waddle or Waddle's pretty young too? Again, that's a hard question. It depends on how your team's constructed, what you're looking at. If you have good quarterbacks, I might tend to lean towards Waddle just because he's so young. But if I'm quarterback deprived, I'm probably going to roll the bones and go with Bryce Young.
So out of the two, what do you think has more value come this time next year?
Oh, in 2024? You're going to have to say Bryce Young.
You'd pick Bryce Young going higher next year than he currently is right now?
Looking at the quarterbacks, he probably would be right about where he is next year if he is what they expect him to be and to be able to improve as a quarterback. If he's the first quarterback taken, you would expect that he would at least be there going forward. If you look at the other quarterbacks behind him, Tua, played well, but he got a lot of injuries. If Bryce Young were to be picked up and stays healthy, depending on how he goes, his upside as a young guy, you would probably have him in there as well.
Yeah, I don't know if I can take Young over Waddle, and I'm not sure if Young has any more value to go from here to maybe the 205 compared to next year. I mean, we got Caleb Williams next year, and we got Marvin Harrison Jr. Two guys that are projected to be first-round starter picks.
Yeah, I got you. Well, okay. When I say Bryce Young, let's just say Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud, because right now they're going to be one of the top two. Either quarterback, if they hit it in a 2-quarterback superflex league, if they're able to start and play at least as well as Pickett did, so you would expect them to play a little bit better because they're more highly ranked. They're not going to be less. I mean, I guess you could see where's Pickett now. Even in here,
he's 605.
He's 605. Well, I guess maybe I'm a little crazy, but I tend to think they're going to do a little bit better than Pickett. You know how I thought about Pickett last year. Yes, he was the number one, but again, I don't see him being in the same category as Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud, which is why I value them more. Unknown, and it's a risk, but I tend to take that risk on the QBs in a 2-quarterback superflex league if it is, and we'll see. I don't know. These guys are not superstars, but they're not a Trevor Lawrence.
Here's a fun one for you because I know you're a big Alabama fan.
Roll Tide.
Would you rather have Tua or Bryce Young? Tua plus or Bryce Young?
I'm going to have to go with Bryce Young because the concussions that poor Tua had, he's just not going to last. I mean, the guy, I like him. I've always liked him. Character-wise, great guy. And I think he's a good quarterback. You saw what he can do when he's on and not under the concussion protocol, and they still stick him in the game. That being said, I would have to go with Bryce Young because he's starting off fresh, and the chance of keeping him fresher for longer is better than what we're going to get out of Tua going forward.
What about if you had Trey Lance and an early 2024 first for Bryce Young?
I'd probably take Lance in the first because then I could maybe get another quarterback next year that gives me the leverage as well. So I have two, or I can get another skill player, the top receiver, running back coming out of that league as well. So yeah, I would take the hedge in that regard. I'm not sold on Bryce Young. I think he's going to be the greatest because he's certainly not as capable as Trevor Lawrence was. And I'm big on Lawrence. I mean, Lawrence, I got him in all my leagues, and I think he's still on the upswing. Herbert is another great one. I don't think Bryce Young is up into the caliber of those guys or Burrow when they came in either. But I think he's got potential to be somewhere between those guys and the guys you got down here like Pickett. You know, is he going to be as good as a Prescott or a Murray? Maybe not as a Murray, but at least a Prescott or a Tua. I think they're going to be in there. And if you can get a guy like that, I mean, look how many you got. You got 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You got one of the top 10 quarterbacks on your league for however many years if you can do that. That's why I tend to lean to that.
I would say maybe for about a year.
Yeah. Well, for quarterback, I'd say it's going to be longer. Running back, you got him for maybe a year or two after that. I mean, look, how many running backs have repeated as the top running back?
In the past, 7 years?
10 years.
10 years?
You might have had maybe one or two. I have to look
maybe
it up.
One.
But there hasn't been too many that have gone back to back.
Yeah, recently, no.
How many quarterbacks have gone back to back?
Not that many.
Mahomes?
Nope.
How about Brady?
Maybe a long time ago.
Yeah, I have to look it up. It's been a while. I don't know.
I guess Rodgers, if you want to play the MVP game, right? Back-to-back MVP.
No. I'm talking stats. I'm talking guys that are getting
fantasy
week in,
really.
week out, are getting me the 22 points a game.
No, not really any worth rostering this early. No. I guess Allen, but even Allen didn't do it this year, so no. All right, 103. Who would you rather have? Kyle Pitts, the 103, or 103 or Tyreek Hill, 103 or T. Higgins. The list goes down. Who would you rather have there?
I'd take Pitts. Pitts is he's a freak athlete. He's potentially a generational tight end. Hasn't had the best situation down in Atlanta. Had some injury difficulties, but I don't think you should throw him out yet. I know a lot of people are saying some people are saying he's a bust, but it's too early to tell. Tight ends don't even hit their stride statistically until he's still got a couple more years before he's supposed to be hitting his prime.
Yeah, so young, man. He's younger than some of the guys of this year.
Yeah.
Still.
And he's kind of low down there, but yeah. I would take Pitts for sure.
How high do you think Kyle Pitts would go in a tight end Premier League?
Pretty high. He depending again on the quarterbacks and the number, he wouldn't go above those quarterbacks that you have that you need him for your dominating factor. But a tight end premium, he's certainly up there before some of the other receivers and running backs.
Here's a question. Would you rather have the 102 or Kyle Pitts in a tight end premium league?
Pitts. He's going to give you more years than any running back you're going to get. And a tight end premium with the scoring, he's going to move up. So he's almost like a quarterback, depending on whether it's a 4 or 6 point league. You have to look at the points to kind of see where you want him. And I think Pitts becomes that guy, right? Because there's tiers depending on position. As you look at the point, I look at point tiers when I'm doing my fantasy team. So who's giving me 20? And then the drop off from the 20 to the 15 in the quarterback. So that's my tier 1. And then on that 20 to 15 point a week, you got running back and receiver tiers, and you look at those. And the tight end, he's up here. He's up high because he gives you so many points potentially each week. Now, before that drop off, he's going to move ahead of some receivers and some running backs. So depending on the scoring, I'd have to look at where I'd put him in the tier. But he definitely would be up there in the tight end premium because the extra points that he gets as a tight end automatically moves him above most running backs and equal to some of the receivers like Chase and Jefferson.
Yeah, I'm a big Kyle Pitts fan myself. I would probably take Kyle Pitts over the 102. I'd definitely take him over the 103. Some guys in here, I'd probably take the pick over in this range. I would rather have the pick over Tyreek Hill. I'd probably rather have the pick over Higgins. Pick over Travis Kelce.
What if you're trying to win this year?
I'm not. I'm not trading Travis Kelce, or I'm not trading a 103 for Travis Kelce. I'd rather take Andrews, or I'd rather probably take Barkley or Olave. Maybe further down the list, I'd probably take, DK Metcalf and a second for next year, or Devontae Smith and a second
for the third pick.
Yeah, that's probably what I would do. All right, 104 here at the 402. We got around that range. We have London, Cooper Kupp, DK Metcalf, Devontae Smith, Daniel Jones, and Hawkinson, Lance, Jacobs, Adams. Oh, yeah, in that range. So Adams, Jacobs, Lance, Hawkinson, London, Kupp, Metcalf, all in that range for the 104.
Yeah, in that group, I like London and then Metcalf. Just on a 2-quarterback super flex.
Yeah, so here you get the pick of, at 104, I get to choose the first wide receiver off the board, or, I can get my RB2. The RB2 in the draft. Could be also a QB3 in Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. That's what this pick is.
I'm still going London or Metcalf. Those guys are proven. London, okay, he's had a tough quarterback situation, so he doesn't really sit well in a lot of the rankings. But the target share that he's had, and with Pitts teamed up, if they get the quarterback situation figured out, he could be opening up and surprising a lot of people going forward. Typically, receivers take at least 3 years when they really hit it. That between that 2 to 3 years in the league when the light comes on and they really able to click it open. So he still has a little bit of time. You've had some guys like Jefferson and Chase, and you could even argue Garrett Wilson and Olave. They've done really well first year out, so they're going to do well. But that's not always the case. Typically, the receivers take a little bit longer. London's still within that window, and he's young, and he's big, and has a lot of potential. So I wouldn't want to give up on him right away. And Metcalf. I can speculate for a JSN or Addison or somebody, but you got known quantities already as opposed to the speculative. I wouldn't take that risk at that point.
Yeah, I would take London over the pick here. I would also take Devontae Smith. I would not take Cooper Kupp over the 104. I could not do that. Even if I was winning. Even if I was in a winning situation, I would probably take Jacobs there, or I would take Metcalf, or I would take Devontae Smith. I would not take Cooper Kupp. Even for me, I feel like that's just too high for him, personally. Same thing with Adams. They're both 30. They're both older. Don't see them being this high this time next year.
I agree.
I'll take the pick. Pick can only increase in value from here to the draft, and then even next year, I think it'll be going higher than probably is right now, especially if it's a quarterback. All right, so we can go ahead and do our final transition here of some of the recent trades that we've seen happen and go down in some of our leagues here. All right, here we got Hubbard, the 101, 201, 2024 first, or Chubb, Pitts, the 102, the 202.
I'm going to take Pitts.
Yeah, I would also take Pitts here, too. So, if you break this down, right? So probably the 101 and the 102 and 202 probably cancel each other out. All right, so this is Chubb and Kyle Pitts for the 2024 first, Hubbard, and a 201. Yeah, no, I'll take the Pitts side here. That's an easy one. All right, and the next one here we have. I don't know. What do you think about this one?
The Watson Murray.
Yeah.
Well, let's put the names in there. Let's say, okay, so on the bottom you got Trey Lance and Bijan Johnson, and a 209. You have a good receiver or running back. Let's say, right? Versus Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, and a 204, which means you're going to get another running back or a receiver. 2 quarterback superflex. You got Murray and Watson, 2 starters, 2 dual threat quarterbacks. Probably going to roll with them as opposed to the bottom. I would go with the quarterbacks. They're fairly young and still got some good years in them. I think you might have 2 starters on that one, so I would take the Watson Murray side.
Yeah, I probably do the same thing here. My first thoughts initially are, wow, that's a big trade. So Lance, he's going the 4th round of startups. Bijan going the end of the first. So that's Kyler Murray and Deshaun Watson right there. Those are both first round startups or early second startups. Yeah, no, I'll take the quarterbacks there. All right, if you here, you can break this one down.
On the Sanders Chase Lamb one.
Yeah, so what are we? Left side and right side. What are they?
Yeah, they're pretty good. I mean, Lamb and Chase. Obviously, Chase is at the front end, and the receivers number 1, number 2, and then you got Lamb. He's a little bit younger, but he seems to be up and coming as well. So there's a little bit of a wash. Favors Chase, obviously, but then you got Sanders thrown in there. He's at the end of his cycle. Going to be a free agent this year. I'm not sure if he's going to bring him back, but maybe has a year or 2 left of great productivity or good productivity, you call it, depending where he ends up. But certainly nothing to sit there and bank your league on or your team on. So I'd say those 2 a little bit of a wash, and then you got the 102 and the 202. I'm going to take the Chase side.
Yeah, I would also take the Chase side here. Wash between Lamb and the 104 Chase, and then you're also getting the 102. That's cheese, man.
Oh yeah, that's definitely goes to Chase side.
All right, Elijah Moore, the 102, or Justin Fields and David Bell.
Whew. That's a good trade, actually. It's a fair trade. Again, would it been 2 quarterback superflex? 2 quarterback superflex. I'm probably going to go with. That's a toss up. You can go with the proven guy, Fields, but his situation is a little bit more precarious. They say they're going to go with him, but then they're looking at quarterbacks from Chicago. I might tend to go with the 102 and Elijah Moore, depending on how my quarterback situation is. If I got 2 good starters, I'm dumping Fields.
All right, well, say I was, spoiler alert, I was the bottom one here. So if we ask one of our favorite actors here, Mr. Brad Pitt, what are his thoughts on this?
I'll make that deal. How about you, Udovich? You make that deal?
I'd make that deal.
I don't blame you. Damn good deal.
So I saw this thing hit my my inbox, and I was like, yeah, it's an instant smash. I'm taking Fields and David Bell. And as we see, this is actually like more like a month ago. But, 102 is going at the end of the second. Fields is going early. So if I want, I could actually trade this for, Bijan Robinson.
That's a good one. No, it's good.
That's easy.
Now, did you have good quarterbacks already or not?
Oh, yeah. I have Watson and Herbert.
So you picked up Fields just for trade bait. That makes sense.
Maybe. Or I can keep him too if Watson doesn't plan out either.
You're filling. No, it's good. I don't disagree with that.
All right, we got our last one here. Devontae Smith, 109 or the 103.
These are bad trades. I would probably depends on a quarterback. I'd probably go with the 103 to get a quarterback.
Really?
It depends. The Devontae Smith, he's up there pretty quick. He's at the end of the second round, and a 109. That's going to be further back, but the 103.
Let's see. Smith, we saw. Take a look at the sheet. Let's take a look at the sheet here. Let me pull up the sheet for our.
Yeah,
our
Devontae
RBs here.
Smith is he's actually fourth round.
I think he's the early first, right?
He's in
Or
the fourth round.
early fourth. Excuse me.
Yeah, early fourth for ADP, and then the 109 is
Probably like the fifth or sixth.
seventh.
So who's
seventh round? So you got a fourth and a seventh for the 103, which is they're looking at the third round, right? He's up with Pitts and all that. I think I might go with the 103 depending on what I have. If I need to build depth and I'm making a run, I might take the Devontae Smith and the 109 if I need it, but I would be inclined there to go for the 103 to maybe get Stroud. Is there somebody going to need a quarterback? I might be able to get more.
Yeah, I hear. Oops, spoiler alert! I am the one on the top. I am Devontae Smith, and the 109. So I picked Smith because I needed a wide receiver one. I needed one, and he has the. Right now he's going to the early fourth round. I could also trade him away for something good too, or more picks. I didn't need a quarterback here. I have two proven quarterbacks right now.
It's a good trade. I mean, it's a fair trade. I mean, it depends what you're looking for. That's the thing with trades, right? One man's garbage is another man's gold. It just depends on what you're looking for, right? If you're trying to win this year, it's different than a guy who's tanking so that he can get picks for next year. That's going to be a different trade scenario. In this case, are you looking for depth? Are you looking for flexibility? Or are you looking for a quarterback?
Yeah.
If you're quarterback hungry, you're picking the 103.
Yeah.
If I got Zach Wilson, and I don't know, let's say Derek Carr, I'm taking a 103.
Yeah. I'd probably do the same. All right, and that concludes our pick our player and our trades and our show. So for our first show together, our first show as Dynasty Buffs, awesome stuff. I'm super excited to get this going, and I'm really excited for the off season this year, the NFL Combine this weekend. Next time we can talk about some of our trades and some of the stuff that we see going forward. And our rankings, you can find our rankings on Twitter, or you can find them on our Discord. Our Discord's Dynasty Buffs Discord. I'll link that in the description on Apple Podcasts in our description and our notes. And I'll put our Discord, our Twitter names on YouTube in the description. If you could, give us a like. Give us a follow. We're going to be doing weekly podcasts and some videos sprinkled in there Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. As we go throughout this off season, we got to make sure all of us hit on our rookie drafts this year, as we all need to. And we're going to make sure we win our leagues this year, win our drafts, and we'll just have an awesome, nice, easy off season here. Any other closing remarks here?
So we're going to come back after the combine results from the running backs and quarterbacks and receivers right next week.
Yeah, the tight ends. We'll post our pre-combine rankings, and we'll make our post-combine rankings, and we'll see who's gone up and who's gone down in our rankings, and we'll also take a look at mocks post-combine to see where some of the experts have guys going and some of the NFL scouts as we get more and more news. All right, thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Look forward to seeing you next time. Hit us in the comments. Tell us how dumb we are. Tell us how smart we are. Tell us everything that you want us to, questions, trades that you have that you want to get asked. Our DMs are always open on Twitter, and you can always message us on our Dynasty Buffs YouTube. All right, thank you, and have a good week.
All right, see you, everybody.
Peace.